Yes, just to kind of let you know about that disclaimer. The idea being, I know a lot of people are here joining us, but then we also have some graduating students and also a lot of alumni resources that we'll be sharing. So the idea is post this event, we can share the recording with on our various social media like LinkedIn, etc., so that the people who couldn't join can also leverage from those resources as well. Now, how many of you actually know that the Alumni Association membership is free? And how many did not? So you could raise your hand virtually in Zoom. So the good news is everybody is a member, but you still have to register and get sort of claim your membership card, and just to make sure that you are in the system and receiving all these awesome updates about the event from us. So just make sure that we'll be throwing these links in chat and also sending them post the event to all the registered attendees. So make sure you did register, or if you did not, just make sure you are registered. Um, so by using the link to claiming your free membership, and from my board, if you have the link handy, just throw that in the chat, essentially to register for becoming a member of the Alumni Association, especially if you are already a Sac State alumni. So it's a no-brainer. And additionally, the additional benefit of signing up is that you don't have to just choose one alumni chapter, and we hope you will select ECS, but you can also choose to be a member in addition with, I think, either one more or two other alumni chapters. So if you're interested in other alumni chapters, feel free to kind of add them to your preference, and you can do that later on as well. So I highly encourage you to join and become a member. The next part I wanted to talk about is the Sac State Career Network. I know a lot of people here are joining for networking and mentorship, and we're going to be talking about networking tips. But how about having the whole network, especially of Sac State alumni, where you already know that you can look somebody up, or and kind of look at their LinkedIn profile within the Sac State Career Network, know what their background is, and decide to book a meeting with them, to talk to them, to learn about what they do. And essentially, on the other side, if you are somebody who's already experienced and wants to share their knowledge and volunteer their time, then they can look for mentees over there. So definitely, that's the other call out I wanted to give, is what the Sacramento State has done is establish its own career network that makes it possible to build those connections. I have used it myself, and I have found it incredibly helpful and also very comfortable. And it feels like a safe space to reach your own alumni and having a very candid conversation with them about their jobs, where they are, and what can I do as a next step in my own career. Where can you find us? So there's a couple of places, the Sac State ECS LinkedIn group, um, and on Facebook. If you're on LinkedIn, that's obviously an advantage, and we post a lot of our event information there. If you have any questions, comments, feedback for us, the email address is the best way to reach us. And just also wanted to say, like I mentioned, that we'll be following up. The whole idea is to kind of bring all the breadth of resources forefront for our members, both the alumni and the current students, as well as graduating students. So we have put together a handout. So if you are registered attendee for today, then post the event, you will be receiving a list of resources from us. Look at the chat for helpful resources. Everything that I've talked about today, we'll be throwing all those in chat as the presentations are happening, and you can find those resources there as well. So before we begin, I think this is a great time for our first, and I think only poll that we have on Zoom today. So Amber, if you want to throw the poll in there.
Sorry, what did you say?
If you want to kick off the poll.
Oh, the poll. Sorry, I was multitasking.
No worries. That's what we do as engineers, right? Yeah, definitely want to know. So the poll is asking, your current status, just so we know who is on here with us today, and we can pivot the presentation as needed. And also, yeah, go ahead and take the poll. And while you're in there already on Zoom, for any alumni that have today, I highly encourage you to put yourself and put your graduating year in there if you're okay to share that. So it's not mandatory, but if you're okay to share that, we'd really love to see how many generations do we have here? How many decades of generations we have here? I know engineering, computer science has a long, proud history. So we want to see, what representation do we have essentially within our attendees.
Heads up, you cut out.
Okay.
Was there an option to put that in the poll? I only saw undergraduate as an option without any options.
Yeah,
There's
no.
undergraduate, graduate, recent college graduate, and then working for greater than 2 years. And it looks like just about everyone has voted.
Okay, great. Let's close the poll.
All right.
Okay, so we had 24 people that voted for the poll, and yes, I think we have a healthy representation from all the groups. So that's amazing. That's good to know. All right. So like I said, if there are alumni that have joined us, if you're okay, just put in your graduation year in the rename it in the chat, so students can see that which alumni are here, and in case if they want to reach out to you, they can. All right. So moving right on. I wanted to also take the time to introduce our board, the ECS Alumni Chapter Board. And you can see the names in the Zoom as well. So the president for the chapter is Alvin Yabud. And then
Nadir, could you ask Amber to close the poll?
Okay, I'm going to.
Thank you.
Stop.
It's just covering the slide.
Oh, really? Okay.
The poll, I have closed the poll.
You just have to hit the close button.
Okay.
You just have to hit the X at the top because each one of you can see it individually on your screens.
Okay. Moving right on. Alvin is at the California Fair Political Practices Commission. This is Nadir. I'm the Senior Application Security Engineer right now at Wells Fargo. And I see we have a lot of representation in our panelists from cybersecurity. And it's not really surprising, honestly, with what the scenario is today. Our board member for membership is Mike Bell, who's systems engineering at Symbio. We also have a secretary treasurer, which is Stellan Gomes, who's a graduating student from mechanical engineering. That's the board. We also get support from other people as part of running the chapter. We have Sam Lee, who is our student coordinator, and he helps spread the word around. He's a graduating student as well from the software engineering major, and he's also an intern at Intel. And we also have the awesome faculty advisor, which has been really beneficial and helpful for us through the year, helping us maintain that connection with the school. And that's Susan Hall, who is the ECS faculty. So now moving right on, I'm going to introduce our panelists for today that we have and who have graciously volunteered their time to be with us. So from the Department of State Hospitals, we have Andrew Henkel. Andrew is the Deputy Director and the CIO for the Department of State Hospitals. He leads an IT team that is dispersed through California and provides technology solutions directly in support of the mission of DSH. He has over 25 years experience in numerous roles within the IT field in both the public and private sector. And you will see I've highlighted the key part that is the most important in this context is he's also a Sac State alum. And it's really nice to have him back here with us at Sac State and the ECS chapter. We also have Dylan Pletcher, who is the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer at Department of State Hospitals. He is an ECS alumni with a degree in civil engineering. He began his state career as a student assistant straight out of high school and has worked progressively in more challenging roles at the Public Employees Retirement System, Caltrans, CHP, and now state hospitals as a C-level manager. We have Jacqueline with us today. She's a security engineer at the California Department of State Hospitals. She's currently studying for her BS in cybersecurity and information assurance at Western Governors University. She has over 6 years of IT experience that consists of roles in help desk, networking, and security. In addition, she has active certification in IC Square, CompTIA, Palo Alto Network, CIW, and ITIL. We also have Travis with us today, who is the information technology specialist at the Department of State Hospitals. And like I want to introduce the next person who I say is the MVP for us from the Department of State Hospitals, Crystal, who will be presenting the presentation. Who is so she's currently the lead recruiter and education outreach specialist at the Department of State Hospitals, where she's able to combine her experience in recruiting, marketing, sales, and training. She also partners with all level of leadership at Department of State Hospitals. One thing I realized in my conversations with her, she's super approachable. She's been awesome to work with in terms of coordinating this presentation. And likewise, she has mentioned her email address and open to receiving direct contact on her email address. So we have a huge representation from Department of State Hospitals. So I encourage all the attendees to think of all the questions they want right now, so that when we go into the question and answer forum, and now that you know their background, you will be able to get input from all our panelists. Moving right on, we also have representation from Sacramento State Career Center from Dr. Repa. So Dr. Melissa Repa is the director of the Career Center at Sacramento State, where she's helping student and alumni dreams become reality through career and community. Dr. Repa has previously served as project director of the TRIO Student Support Services Program. And as a co-director of services to students with disabilities and coordinator of the Accessible Technology Initiative and principal investigator of Project Rebound. And she's taught first-year seminar and learning skills courses. She has a background in Bachelor's of Science and Teaching Certificate in Psychology and General Science from the University of Michigan, a Master's of Art in Psychological Studies in Education from UCLA, a certificate in Assistive Technology applications from CSU Northridge, and a doctorate in Educational Leadership from Sacramento State. And also she's awesome with supporting the School of Engineering as well. So thanks for joining us, Dr. Repa. And she's also joined from the Career Center with Ms. Woon Sa. Ms. Woon Sa is the Employer Relations Specialist for the Career Center. She's been with Sacramento State for almost 6 years. She has an MBA from Sacramento State. She coordinates our major career fairs each semester. She's currently the liaison to the College of Engineering and Computer Science. She's also our handshake administrator and technical subject matter expert. And I'm sure you will learn a little bit more about those resources in our presentation. All right, so moving right on, now I'm just going to hand this over to the Career Center for the first part of our presentation, where they're going to talk about the resources and the networking tips. So handing it to you, Dr. Repa.
Okay, thank you, Nadir. I really appreciate your invitation to come and just share a little bit of information on what the Career Center provides and how alumni can engage with the Career Center. I also wanted to, again, welcome the students who are here and share that all of the resources that I'm going to present today are also available to students. I'm going to invite Voon to jump in anytime as I share information about the Career Center. But I also wanted to recognize and acknowledge my colleagues from the Dean's Office who are here, and we couldn't provide the career services without the College of Engineering as a key partner. So just want to welcome the team here. So I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I wanted to share a couple of resources and some strategies for how you might connect with the Career Center. So as Nadir mentioned, our vision is really to help students and alumni dreams become reality through career development as well as connections. So you're going to hear about some of the resources that are available to both help students and alumni develop their careers, make connections to jobs and internships, and explore the opportunities that they may want to pursue, such as with the Department of State Hospitals. I'm going to go ahead and share in the chat. I'll do a link, and then I'm also going to just show you an image. This is, I knew that I was going to be talking with engineers who may be fairly data driven, so I'd like to share an infographic. Can everybody see my screen where it's got some images?
I can see your screen.
You got it. Okay, great. So I wanted to highlight just in a snapshot, kind of an image, what our services overall are, and then give you a few data points on how we engage and how alumni engage. And also to recognize that many of the alumni that we work with are in multiple roles. So they may be employers, they may be graduates of both Sacramento State and maybe even working here. So like myself, I graduated from here and I work here. So in terms of what we do, again, help our students and alumni thrive in the workforce and to contribute to the community. And we do this through a number of signature services. Career counseling and support services is what comes to mind the most when students think and alumni think about our center. So we do have a team that meet one-on-one or in groups with the students and alumni. And I'll give you a link to how you can make appointments to get these services. So anything related to career development, from refining a resume and translating your skills and experiences into a polished resume, to helping to figure out, well, what do you want to do with your major in engineering? There's so many different things and different industries that are out there. There's some bright outlook related professions, so we can help students to really discover themselves and to explore what the opportunities are that will be a good fit for them, both professionally, personally, et cetera. And then we also help students connect to those positions, internships, jobs. We work very closely with the College of Engineering, with employer-related events, and we also have, like Nadir said, all majors career fairs. In addition to events like career fairs, employer information sessions, we also have workshops. We do presentations similar to this with classes and clubs. So these are oftentimes the way that we connect with our students and alumni. And then we have a number of online resources. I'll have Voon talk a little bit more about our signature resource called Handshake. That's really kind of a hub of career events and career resources. And then I mentioned the employer services. So we definitely want those in the audience who are hiring to know that we are a service and we're a support to you as well. So this is kind of the nutshell of what we provide. And then let's see. And then in terms of some of the data, I wanted to just show you, this is a little bit, we haven't finished our infographic from this year yet, but just to give you a sense of all the different appointments that we have, you'll see it very much varies. A lot of students come in to get help with the resume, but then it turns into a conversation about, exploring new careers or exploring new majors. We also have a high number of students who come in for job search assistance, or they're needing an interview coaching experience. We do have customer service and other data that we collect from our students who basically report back of what's important to them. And they definitely say that it has helped to enhance their career, and we're continually working on ways to further refine that. One of the things we're asking this year is, do the students and the alumni prefer the virtual services? Because we've had this, in some ways, an opportunity to scale up the opportunities for our students. And then I wanted to just give an example of a quote. It helps. I wanted to thank you so much for your help in my job search. It helped make the process for these big and scary positions significantly easier. So we want the students and alumni to feel better and to feel more at ease. Right now, it's a fearful time for many people, and maybe they're afraid they're not going to find the job that they were expecting, but we can shift that to be hopeful that they will find a job. They're, you know, especially this group, your engineering majors, your computer science majors, and there are opportunities and you can continue to develop your career. I'll jump to the second page, and that is some of our employer engagement. So right now we have, I think Boone is at over 5,000 jobs posted in our handshake system. And we've done employer surveys to find out what are some of the skills that they find most important, but also what they can do or what our students might be able to do to continuously improve. So some of this, the focus of this presentation or this talk is on networking skills. And that's something that, you know, oral communication skills, professionalism, these are things that are very important and that can be continually refined. So one of the quotes that we had recently is that students knew the path that they were on and what they desired to achieve in their goals. So really having that clear sense of purpose, and what we've heard from employers oftentimes is that Sacramento State alumni are prepared, they're professional, and they've got that experience. So, and then finally, we do partner with faculty and staff, as I said, for presentations such as this. And then finally, how many of you are on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter? You can maybe raise your hands. So after this, I hope that everybody becomes our friend at Sac State Career. I'll put that in the chat box in a little bit, but we have increased our social media following significantly in the last few years. And I think it's just a sign of the times, like this is how people engage. So we had an Instagram live earlier this week. We're going to have for Grad Fest next week. Is it 3, Boone, that we're doing? 3 Instagram live sessions. So, you know, if you need a break from Zoom and want to connect on Instagram, definitely check us out at Sac State Career. Another thing I wanted to share, so I'm going to maybe have Boone show us a little bit on the handshake piece. And I'm gonna, or do you want to show it, or do you want to just discuss it? Maybe I can just show them on the website how to get access.
I mean, I can share my screen and show like the student side. That would help a lot.
Okay.
My screen, yeah.
Okay, you should be good.
Okay, let's see. A second here. Okay, so let me just go ahead and log into my student. Student viewer. So I just like to find out, you know, how many of our students and alumni have an account with Handshake or actively is using Handshake. Just curiosity. So raise your hand if you know what Handshake is and you're using it. Okay. So Handshake is definitely one of our signature tool. It's kind of like your one-stop for a lot of things. So it's not just a job board. There's career events, info sessions. Of course, all of our fairs are on there. It's an employer database as well. So if you're looking to do research on employer, it's definitely a great tool. You know, and you can definitely, you know, there's definitely a lot of networking capabilities that you can do with Handshake, not just with, you know, finding employers and connecting with them, but you can also find students, not just from Sac State, but students from other campuses as well, as long as they're part of the Handshake network. And Handshake is very robust. Currently, there's probably over 1,000 schools that's on Handshake right now. Most of your CSU and your UC, they're already on Handshake. So, you know, you may want to you know, open up your profile and connect with other students on Handshake. If you're looking to maybe think about enrolling at a different school in a different program, it's a great opportunity for you to network with some of the students that are at the potential campus that you want to get into. So it's a very powerful tool, but I want to share you, you know, all the things that you can possibly find in here. So of course, jobs. Now, if you're an undergraduate and you're looking for on-campus jobs, it's also posted in Handshake. It's relatively very intuitive. And of course, you know, you can find full-time jobs, you can find internship. So you can definitely filter and find these opportunities. In terms of events, you know, we host all of our events through Handshake. College of Engineering and ECS hosted 2 virtual info sessions. Quite a bit of students attended. And I would definitely recommend that you stay in contact with the College of Engineering and Computer Science, especially all the emails that they send out to in regards to these info sessions, because what happens at these info sessions is that a lot of these employers are looking to recruit, they're looking to hire right away. So after the info sessions, they are, you know, jotting down names and you know, and interviewing these students, you know, right after the info session. So if you're looking for like internships and full-time opportunity, you definitely want to, you know, utilize Handshake and make sure that you attend these info sessions that's hosted by the College of Engineering and Computer Science. So of course, tons of events hosted by not just the college, but by other employers as well. Great way for you to network and meet some of these employers that are hosting these sessions. And of course, again, if you open your profile and make it public, employers can actually reach out to you about opportunities as well. So the one thing that we stress is that, you know, you want to make sure that you complete your profile, okay? Make sure that it's as close to 100% as possible. Because employers are in this database and they're searching for like keywords or programs or majors. So you want to make sure that your profile is close to 100% complete. And the quickest way for you to do that is to upload your resume so that it actually will populate all the field that you have, okay? All right, so events, and of course you can find all of our career fairs on here. Right now we don't have any, but we do host our virtual fair. Of course, we don't have any since we're all done with it, but we'll be definitely hosting some more in the fall. So you want to make sure that you visit the events page. There's also like a neat little Q&A section where this is actually students asking, you know, questions about companies and things like that. So maybe you have that specific questions that maybe that you want to ask an employer. You can, you know, search for it, and if it, you know, pops up, somebody had already asked that question, and you can actually take a look. And these are comments that are posted by, you know, employers, recruiters, staff, and other students. So it's a great researching tool. And you can also, you know, share your experience as well. So again, just a great way to explore fields and things like that. Under students, if you open your, obviously, if you open your profile to the community, you can actually find other students from other campuses in here.
And I wanted to add for those students or even alumni who are pursuing a master's degree or beyond, this is a great strategy for connecting with others who might have pursued those degrees at other institutions or at our own institution to make those connections. So
Absolutely.
kind of like the Sac State Career Network, but more graduate focused.
Yep. So currently there's over 600,000 employers on Handshake. Now, we don't necessarily work with all 600,000, but that's just how many employers that have connected or created an account on Handshake in order for them to connect to, these schools that are on Handshake. And you can do your research by industry, by location. You can find more information about the employers by obviously, going to their page. If they have jobs, it'll be listed. There's also reviews for these employers and students who have worked there. So again, a very powerful tool if there's a specific company that you're interested in and you want to see who's worked there before, and maybe you have a question about maybe a particular job, or maybe you want to find out about the interview process, and you can absolutely message these students and and connect with them. So think of Handshake as a job board, but also it's also similar to LinkedIn as well in terms of the networking feature. So I always promote Handshake when I talk to students because it's kind of your one stop for networking, career resources, jobs, employers. All of our resources are also posted on Handshake. You can find it. Let's see. One second here. Let's see. Yep, a lot of our resources have been uploaded to Handshake, so it's all here for you to take a look at. Now, if you're specifically just interested in anything, just ECS in terms of career fairs and things like that, you can actually go to the ECS page right here. So the college have their own page. And then if any events or career fair is active, you'll see it on this page. But for right now, because it's toward the end of the semester, we don't have a whole lot. So that's why it's currently blank. But again, in the fall, when we start hosting these events, you'll see it on the ECS page.
And for those of you who maybe you haven't used any career database for a while, we used to have one, Simplicity, and what do we used to call it? Career Connection.
Hornet Career Connection.
Hornet Career Connection. You can email. I noted in the chat, email our department, and we'll connect you again. So I just wanted to briefly talk about networking. I know Boone mentioned Handshake. It's an awesome networking tool. The Sac State Career Network is great. LinkedIn is great. And these are all some strategies for networking. In terms of tips, somebody asked me earlier today, what does networking look like for introverts? And I wanted to sort of throw that question out there because I think when we think of networking, a lot of times we think of somebody doing an elevator pitch or somebody sort of getting out there and working a room. And I think that the reality is that not everybody is going to have that sort of personality. And so I'm throwing that out there to kind of give you this sense of networking is different for every person. So in terms of what it is, as we've discussed, it's a great way to share information, exchange information. You can do networking and interact with others online. You can do so in an event like this via Zoom, or, as we continue to experience, more in-person opportunities, you can do that. I also like to give the sort of suggestion of looking at networking both internally within, whether you're in a company or whether you're at Sacramento State, as well as externally. So internally, we all as colleagues at Sacramento State certainly network a lot through clubs and alumni, associations. You can network that way, as well as campus events. You can network that internal. But externally, you can always go to your professional associations. So depending on what type of engineering or computer science field you're in, I think at one point I was in this ACM, I forget what it stands for, Association for Computing Machinery. I was interested in usability. And so like connecting with others who are interested in those types of topics. LinkedIn, again, it's great, but so is Handshake and the Sac State Career Network. And then your professors are great opportunity, great ways to make those connections as well. And I'm going to end with a very quick tip, which has additional tips, and that is, instead of looking at networking and meeting people as something like an elevator pitch, we like to instead call it an elevator conversation. So I know for sake of time, I'm going to just go ahead and share with you the elevator conversation, which has some additional networking tips. Okay. Can everybody see my link in the chat? Okay. So this is from Stanford University. They have, many of you may be familiar with the Design Your Life or the design school. And so it's a really great way of looking at building connections through conversations and interactions versus just, throwing yourself out there. So with that, Nadir, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Repa and Woon. This was amazing presentation, and like you said, it shouldn't be that daunting, and it's a very safe way to kind of and you gave out so many resources, and that's exactly the message we want to drive as an alumni chapter is and I experienced that myself. I had so many options when I was at school, and as I have kind of transitioned away and I'm coming up on a decade of graduating from my master's program. And over the last year, as I've explored some of these resources, I've realized there's so many benefits, and some of these are amazing free resources. So people in the chat, if you're a graduating student or you graduated forever, and even people who are going through mid-career changes, I would encourage them to look back, see what's available, start there and know that you're not alone in your career journey. All right. So with that, I want to hand this now over to Crystal for her side of the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Bear with me. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let's go to the presentation mode. So thank you to Melissa and Woon and Nadir, obviously, for setting this up and talk about networking. He actually messaged me on LinkedIn, and we had a conversation via email, and then we got on the phone and just realized, this presentation really made sense to connect the alumni students and the ECS chapter with Department of State Hospitals. And listening to Woon and Melissa speak as well about Handshake and your Career Development Center, I still think I have open appointments available to Sac State students who usually ping me, every week or two, just to talk about careers with Department of State Hospitals. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to allow us to network and share what our department does in state and public service for our communities and our state and the patient population that we treat. And then some of the really unique positions that we offer in technology services. So let's go ahead. So if some of you aren't familiar with Department of State Hospitals, we're actually the third largest department in the state. So following up after Caltrans and CDCR, which is our prison system, DSH is the third largest department. So here's just some of our vision, mission, some of our goals and our values that we as a department look to serve. And again, DSH, like I mentioned, we provide mental health services to patients in our 5 facilities. So we have 5 locations throughout California, and then 1 administrative office here in Sacramento and downtown. And we serve about 11,752 patients within our hospital system statewide. And then we employ about 13,000 staff and team members, and that's both clinical and non-clinical. And then at DSH, just to give you a little background about our patient population, we're about 90% forensic patient population. And so what that means is our patients are committed to us by the court system because they have either been accused or have committed a crime associated with their mental illness. So some of these examples are not guilty by reason of insanity, incompetent to stand trial, and offenders with mental health disorders. And we do have some civil commitments as well at our hospital. So those are some patients that because they are gravely disabled, we as a hospital system treat them and they're in our care. So here's a map of our locations. So again, as I mentioned, Sacramento is our headquarter admin office. And then we have 5 locations throughout California. We have the closest to Sacramento is Napa State Hospital. And then going down the central region of California near Fresno is Coalinga State Hospital. That's one of our newest hospital locations. And then on the central coast, we have Atascadero. And then down in Southern California, we have Patton State Hospital and then Metropolitan, which is located in Los Angeles in Norwalk, California. So as you can see, if you were, to join our team, you have 6 awesome locations. And what's nice is, when you start with one of our locations, you can either transfer and all of your state service and benefits also transfer with you. So this is, each slide here is going to talk about our different locations. So Atascadero, like I mentioned, they have a total bed capacity about 1,275 beds. This is an all-male facility, and then it's located near Morro Bay in San Luis Obispo. And all patients are male and forensically committed at this location. Then you have Coalinga, which is again our newest location and hospital. It has 1,200 beds, and this is a unique location just because the patient population here are what we call SVPs. So they're sexually violent predators that are treated here by our psychiatrists, our collegial team of psychologists, our registered nurses and psych techs at this location near Fresno. Sorry about that. Then we have Metropolitan going down in Southern California. This actually opened in 1916. This location has one of our 2 museums. So if you are ever, not during the COVID times, obviously, but we do have a museum which has really unique historical artifacts, related to mental illness that dates back to many years ago. So a lot of our artifacts are there, and it's really cool if you ever get a chance to see. And so this location it's one of our smaller area hospitals. It has 700 beds, but they will be doing an expansion up to 1,100 beds in the next 2 years. And this hospital is usually one of our popular ones just because it is located in Los Angeles. So we get a lot of people interested in that hospital location. And then DSH Napa, this is close to us in Sacramento, obviously in the beautiful wine capital of the world in Napa County. And we have 1,197 beds here. This is actually our oldest DSH facility. And they have both adult male and some women patients who we treat here. And then Patton is our another Southern California location. This is actually our largest location. So we have a total bed capacity of 1,527 beds. This location treats both male and female forensically committed patients. It also has one of our other hospitals, our museums, excuse me, and it's located in the Southern California area near San Bernardino. So this slide here talks about, what are some of the reasons to join our team, or why, think about when you got, seems like there's a lot of undergrads that are seeking, what they're going to do in their next career opportunity. And a lot of people don't usually think like, oh, I'm going to go work for the state. Unless you're in Sacramento, then maybe you have family members that are part of, public service and state work. So this slide just kind of talks about some of our employee benefits. So we have vacation and sick leave, which we have generous different opportunities there, or annual leave. We have very flexible schedules. Then we also still offer a pension and retirement plan. Not a lot of companies or organizations still offer pensions. So we at the state, we do offer that. And then we do offer a competitive health, dental, eye insurances. And then going down the list, there's a lot of advancement opportunities, which you'll learn when our subject matter experts talk to you a little bit about their specific experiences with the state. You can travel. Obviously, we have 5 locations throughout California. It just depends on where you want to live and if the opportunity is there. And then public service. At the end of the day, there's a lot that we can do for our state and our community. And those are some of the key points and why, why join DSH, why join state government. I've been here for almost 7 years, and this has been my first department and first state job. So I've been really lucky to enjoy a great team and a great mission for the patient population that we treat here in California. And then these are just some links, and I think Nadir's going to have this slide and PowerPoint presentation available to you all, but those are just some employee benefit summaries, which I just kind of touched upon, but they're all available to you. It's all public information on those links. And then this is a slide here on how to join our team. So again, if you're familiar with, government work, federal or state, you hear of, what's this list I have to be on, or what's this exam I need to take? So I kind of narrowed it down to the 2 steps that you as a undergraduate or just a new candidate looking for a position will have to follow. And so there is, yes, an eligibility. So you do have to become list eligible. And what that means is to take some type of online assessment. And again, I'll have those links available to you and my contact information available, so I can kind of walk you through the process, especially because it could be confusing, in learning about what assessment exam should I take, or what position should I apply for. So those are the 2 steps there. And it's really helpful now that everything is on the CalCareers website, and you as a new candidate can create a login, which is free, and then create your login, also upload your resume on there, and then have your account ready to go whenever you do see positions open up in the areas that you're interested in. And these are some of the positions that I pulled from our website, which offers different types of positions in TSD, or technology services. So as you can see here, there's many different opportunities, and we'll have Drew, Dylan, Jacqueline, and Travis kind of talk about their own experience, where they fit on that slide here, and really give you guys some information on what they do for Department of State Hospitals. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to our subject matter experts. Again, thank you guys so much for your time and joining us. So go ahead.
Thanks, Crystal. Can I start?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just give a few minutes about kind of my journey into where I'm at, and then some of the things I like about working for the state. So I, like Dylan, was a student assistant when I went to Sac State. I was a political science major, which is not the major you would think that somebody that's a CIO would have. And for the longest time, I was sort of like slightly embarrassed about it. And I was taking classes like after I got out. My first job in IT was for a company called the Money Store. Right when I graduated from college. Probably most of you have no idea what the Money Store is. You probably know that big pyramid building in West Sacramento. The Money Store built that and then went out of business a couple years later. And I got in there as a business analyst, and then I just started getting into IT work, and I started enjoying it. And maybe about a year later, the people that I work for at Secretary of State said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And so, yeah, I want a job. And so they apply for this, come in there. And I started working on some IT projects, and I became a system admin. So a Unix, Linux sysadmin in mid 90s, like my first version of Linux, I actually had to buy at the Computer Expo at like the Scottish Rite Temple, which is like right across from Sac State. It came on like, I don't remember what it was, like 25 discs, like floppy disks. I went to load it. I told my wife, look, I'm gonna dual boot our computer. I'm gonna get all this stuff going. First thing I did is wiped out our computer, and she was like, you better figure out how to fix that. And I was like, oh shoot, now it's like a $2,000. I mean, those were expensive back then. It wasn't like now where it's like super cheap. So, but I did that, and I loved working at Secretary of State. That was a great spot. And I had lots of opportunities, right? So I learned, I learned how to write code. I was like a Unix dude, and I wanted to automate as much as I could, and being like a good lazy guy, like let me write a piece of code to do X, and as opposed to continuing to do something, and then just got into programming. So after like 10 years, I went to work for the Highway Patrol as a developer. I can still remember my first day. I sat next to this dude that I'm like, this guy sounds pretty smart, and it was Dylan. I mean, that was like 2004, maybe something like that, 2004. And I worked with Dylan for a couple of years, left state service, started consulting, did that for a while. Lots of development. I really enjoyed it. The economy crashed in 2009. I needed a stable job. So I went to what became the Department of State Hospitals. It was called the Department of Mental Health at the time. And I thought for sure I'm only going to be here for, a year, and then I'll go back to consulting. And then I found I really liked it. Like I liked, as a consultant, you never made friends. You just came in, you worked, you went home. You came in, you worked, and went home. And I sort of found like I found a family, like a group of people that I liked working with. I like the mission of DMH, now DSH, right? They take care of people that like have problems, right? Like that's the cool thing about working for Health and Human Services. So like Crystal didn't talk about, but like the state's made up of agencies, and each agency has departments. And so DSH is one of 13 departments that go into California Health and Human Services. And like at the core, it's like taking care of people, taking care of people that have mental issues, that are poor, that need health care, and so you feel kind of good about that. Yeah, I probably could make more money doing something else, but I feel good about getting up every day and working. So I started at DMH, or DSH now, as a programmer. Did that for a couple years, got into our infrastructure group. We had some reorganization, and I landed in that group. And then I've just done a ton of different roles there. So I was a project director for like what was at the time our biggest IT project, which was a IT system it's like a staff safety system, where we'd had a clinician at one of the hospitals murdered by one of our patients. And so we built like this campus-wide at every hospital wireless network that everybody carried around, what's like effectively like an RFID tag, and it would tell people where they are. And if like Dylan comes to strangle me, I can activate my tag, and Jackie or Travis hopefully will save me, or maybe they'll walk away. I don't know, but it was pretty cool. I mean, it was a huge project for us. I managed our server team. I was their chief technology officer for about 4 years. I've been our CIO for about a year and a half. I started it like, I was like, this is going to be great. 2019, this is like, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Like I've got all these plans, and then COVID hit, and it just completely changed everything we did for about a year and a half, or about a year, maybe a little over a year. And everything for 6 months, it was no work at all except around COVID. And, we did some cool stuff like, we cut off visitation with our patients, and like Travis's team built a televisitation system, right? So we bought a bunch of Google Chromebooks and turned them into kiosks, and all the patients could literally get online, because they're not supposed to they don't have their own computers or anything like that, but they could have WebEx or Teams calls with their loved ones, which is pretty cool. We did a ton of work with telemedicine, a lot of work pushing is so many people remote. Like we have, what do we have, like 12,000 people. And I think we'd set it up by the end that about 5,000 could work remote at any given time, which is pretty good, because the year before only about 500 people could like literally work remote at any given time. So that was a pretty good win for our group. What do I like doing now? My job now is completely non-technical, which sucks, because I kind of like to think of myself as like a propeller head. I still like to write code. I like to like automate things. I like to, do geeky things. And now it's more of a, hey, here's the North Star. Can we meet this? And it's meeting with like my peers on the exec team, and listening to them when they say, hey, I've got a problem with whatever. And then coming back to like a Dylan or like my chief technology officer and say, hey, can we automate this? Can we put an IT solution in here? Can we like consult with these guys and do it? In which case, like now I kind of feel like my political science degree actually is useful, because like I do a lot of stuff with our budget. I do a lot of stuff with asks of the legislature, like writing budget change proposals and stuff like that. So if you want to stay propelled, at some point, I'm just like a linear thinker. Like I wanted to go from this level to this level to this level to this level. And at some point, like when I was CTO, I knew, God, I'm not like technical anymore. And then I think when I just started like giving my phone to somebody and saying, hey, can you fix this for me, please? Or, hey, can you log on to my laptop and, install this software? I was like, okay, I'm no longer a techie anymore, but it's still fun. Like I like leading the team. I like bringing in like really smart people, like the 3 other folks that are on here tonight, and watching them do stuff. Like, and I won't steal Jackie's thunder, but like she started with us as a student assistant. Like how many years ago, Jackie? Like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. And it's fun to watch her grow, right? That's just that's kind of what I get excited about now. And I'll say this, and then I'll turn it over to Dylan, because I don't know how much time we have, and I want to give time for questions and stuff. But you guys were talking about networking. That's by far the most important thing, I think. Is I've built and I've worked at that. I think Dylan has, and the thing is, I'm an extrovert and Dylan's an introvert, and but we both have built that, right? Where it's super important, and it's important to have it with like your peers. So like with CIOs throughout the country for me at this point, but definitely throughout California. And then it's important to have it with like vendors and like solution providers, so that hey, hey Bob, can you help me with this? Hey, I've got this problem. And you've got people there that are willing to help you. So I would fully agree with build your network. That's super important. I would say the stuff that made me successful is I enjoyed what I did. I like to build this, like I like to play with stuff. When I was a kid, I played with Legos, like I built little things. So that's why I like writing code, because you can actually, you can see the output. Like every day you see, okay, I changed this. Okay, I did this. Okay, I did that. I always wanted to learn. Like I was like 25 years old. I had no, computer science degree, but I was taking like 3 classes a night in like programming classes to learn how to do this, learn how to do that. And I tried to make them as applicable to to whatever I was doing at work at the time, right? So I learned, like I just did a ton of stuff on my own time. And then my last thing is I tried to always do something, make whatever I inherited a little better, right? So like drive efficiency, automate a problem. You know, if there's some task that people are doing all the time, like, why are we doing that? Let's write a script to fix that. Like, let's automate it. Let's put it in cron and send me an email if it doesn't work or something like that. So, Dylan, you want to roll for a while?
Yeah, absolutely. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for being on here for us. This is a great opportunity for us to speak to you too. So it's very rewarding for us to get this opportunity to kind of feedback what our experiences were. So again, I'm Dylan Pletcher. As stated, I'm currently the Chief Information Security Officer at the Department of State Hospitals. I am a Sac State alumni. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in civil engineering back in 1994. I did enter the master's program for about 2 years until I chose to withdraw about 2 classes shy of my degree. I don't regret that decision at all. There were some odd things that were happening at the school at the time. One of my professors actually passed away, and he was the concrete guy, and I was structural. So concrete, steel, water, and you know, one out of 3 that would have been my panel was no longer with us, and I didn't know who my next guy was going to be. So I took a short hiatus, and I don't regret it at all. And much like Drew mentioned, you know, oftentimes we get our degrees. And the degree really teaches us how to be aware, how to be thinkers, how to learn, how to analyze a problem and come to a solution. And so while I didn't stay with civil engineering, I was totally fine with that. And I got a very rewarding career out of IT as well. So I started my career as a student assistant in the summer between my senior year in high school and my freshman year at college. I was enrolled at Sac State, and that's all I had was a letter that said that I was enrolled, and I was able to get a student assistant job at the time. I was working at the Public Employees Retirement System at the time, doing some light computer work, and doing a little bit of programming, a little bit of computer programming, a little bit of desktop support for at that time it seemed like a bunch of old guys and gals who are actually about the same age as I am now. So and probably even a bit younger than I am now, to be perfectly honest. At that time, most computers were standalone PCs. Laptops were the size of a small suitcase, had green screens, and booted from floppy disks. So that's kind of the environment that I started in. That early student time was really the best exposure that I had to state service. It really showed me what a desk job was like and how hardworking and happy the employees were that were there. And I think part of that does come from that comfort level, knowing that you've got a secure job, knowing that you've got that support structure, knowing that, you know, if you make a small mistake, you're going to learn from it and move on. You're not going to get fired because there's somebody else waiting at the door to come on and they can hire that person for cheaper. So that was a great experience. After I had been at CalPERS for about 3 years, I moved on to Caltrans with the goal of getting some engineering experience and making some contacts in the bridge division where I could make use of my structural civil engineering focus. Unfortunately, as I neared graduation, the economy took a huge downturn. Hiring for an engineer with a bachelor's degree and no experience basically stopped. So that's when I entered the master's program, took a job at the California Highway Patrol, and started really digging into IT very deeply. I got an opportunity to touch some very cool tech. I ended up working there for 17 years. And at that location, I promoted from a student assistant through the ranks until I achieved the highest technical level that the state offered at the time. There's actually one more position now that's newer, but it didn't even exist at that time. So that was a great run. Now keep in mind, I had no computer science degree at all, but I did have a great degree of analytical skills. And I bring this up because even though you may think, well, I've only taken some classes, how comfortable am I going into the workforce and doing this job? Should I stay working at Starbucks for a little while longer because I've been there? No, don't. Go for it. You know, if you have the opportunity, if you're a student assistant now, try for a student assistant job. Get in there. And again, the networking is important. That's a great way to start meeting people. And even if you take a student job at one location, you can go to a different location and kind of fine tune what your interests are. So I had a strong math background, which is also very, very helpful in IT. I started out developing some of the first network computers when I was there at CHP. Primarily was confined to talking to devices that were just within the same building. Wide area networks were brand new. They were starting to grow, however. I remember that we actually had a poster on the wall that diagrammed the entire internet. And that was significant at the time because now, I mean, there's no way you could do that. But I mean, it was a diagram of the internet. It showed all of the top level domains. It showed who was hosting it. I mean, I think it even had the addresses of the buildings that the computer was sitting in, right? So, and also at that time, wide area networks, we had a lot of offices that had 64 kilobit circuits. We had, if you had a big site, you had a 1.5 megabit circuit, and that's nothing now. As time went on, I moved into server administration. Again, not staying within the same unit, but also moving around within CHP as well. So I moved into server administration, email administration. I went on to do some network administration, so configuring the network hardware, routers, switches, wireless. And then I moved on to getting into firewalls, and that was really where I started to blossom, I think. And as data really was becoming key to business, and security became much more important, much the way it is today. Security is a huge, huge focus. So if you have interest in security, if you have an analytical mind, keep that in mind and start looking for that. So while I was at CHP, I also helped to do things like build mobile rigs that could communicate via satellite, respond to incidents anywhere within the state. I was responsible for the VPN software that allowed patrol cars to travel anywhere and stay connected to our computer systems via microwave and cellular towers, even when there were drops. And that's when cellular service really was a very new thing. Is nothing like we have today. As time went on and computer systems became more capable for good, criminals also improved in their skills. And this is to the point where protection of our compute resources is nearly as important as the compute resources themselves. A system that can be taken down by a threat actor, it's basically useless. So, and that brings me to my latest chapter in my career. And for the last 9 years, I've worked for the state hospitals in the Information Security Office, 3 years as a technical engineer, and 6 years as the Information Security Officer. My team has grown from 4 positions in 2012 when I was a technical staff to 10 positions that we have recently, most presently. We manage the systems which protect against outside and inside attacks. We perform incident response. We do investigations when issues arise, and I guarantee you issues do arise. Information security professionals are in great demand, and especially those with drive and with good analytical skills. So if that's you, keep this in mind and start looking for this job. And even if you don't end up at DSH, look at security as a role. And I can't overemphasize that. Security is huge right now. And there's a massive shortage in security. So a few bits of wisdom that I can share. If you are still a student, consider a student assistant job. You'll get a lot of on-the-job training. You'll get mentorship. You get advice for career development, and you'll be doing that networking that you really, really need to do. Get experience with as many computer systems as you can. The more experience you have with everything from phones to tablets to laptops, desktops, home networks, wireless, wired, you name it, the better off you're going to be. Whether you're looking at information security, programming, server administration, or some other focus, knowing the different systems and how they interact is extremely valuable. If information security is your thing, just be paranoid. Just always be paranoid. There are threats everywhere. Don't be naive about that. Criminals will take advantage of any weakness they can exploit and have remarkably creative ways to hide their actions. Now back to what state service meant to me. So even in tough economic times, state jobs are much more secure than the private sector. I watched many of my peers in the industry, because I did in that time, I did a very short stint as a consultant for about 2 years when my student time ran out, because you're only allowed to work 9 months out of a 12-month period, 9 months worth of time. So when I ran out of time, they moved me over to a contract, and I was a contractor for a couple of years. But while I was there, I never left my desk at CHP, and I watched people come and go as the market fluctuated, as the need for business fluctuated, and technicians, they came and went. But my job was perfectly secure. We are still serving the public, and sometimes the need for our services becomes even more important during those times, and especially at Health and Human Services and state hospitals. Our jobs don't go away when the budget falls apart. They're still there. Okay, so just keep in mind that a state job, it is very secure. And in the last year, for example, when unemployment skyrocketed, our jobs were all intact. And it's very easy to move around. There are always opportunities to go to different state agencies, to change jobs within the same department. So like at state hospitals, you can move around within state hospitals in order to explore new interests. You can get new experience and stay excited about your job. Many people will change jobs every 2 to 3 years, and there's nothing at all wrong with that. That's kind of expected within state service. That is one of the ways that you promote. So don't be afraid of that. You definitely can do that. But what's really good about that is that everything follows you. Your vacation follows you. Your pension follows you. Everything follows you. There's no hiccup in your time served. If you don't like what you're doing at one spot, go ahead, try a different path. The state makes it very easy to explore entirely new careers. So even if you start now in IT and you decide you want to do something else, you want to move over to accounting because that looks like fun. I don't know why you would think that, but let's just say you did. You know, you can do that within the state. And there are things that are called training and development jobs where it's a T&D. You can go and actually work in another unit or another department or area that's not your primary focus and still succeed. And then the last thing that I'll part with is don't be afraid to start low. So if you feel that that's all you're qualified for now, if you think that all you can do is manage a student assistant job working part-time hours, or if you think, oh, I'm coming in as an IT technician or an IT associate, gosh, it doesn't make very much. Don't worry about that now, because I will tell you, if you have dedication, if you have motivation, and you have just a little bit of drive, you can easily move up in the state. There are always positions. People are always moving around. There are always vacancies. If you go online right now to VPAS, which is our site for job announcements, you can see just tons and tons of positions, and you can apply for those. Again, coming in as a student makes it very, very easy to apply for those jobs and have a little bit of cred. So people are going to know, oh, you've worked for the state before. Who did you talk to? Can I talk to that supervisor? Can I talk to that manager? So that's also a very good thing to do. And I'll close with that.
I guess that's my turn.
It's all you. Oh, and Jacqueline is one of the people on my team, and I was really excited to have her come on. I stole her from another unit. Again, I stole her from another unit. So you're on.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Jacqueline. I work as a security engineer at the Department of State Hospitals. I've been with the department for about almost 5 years now. And like Drew mentioned earlier, I started off as a student assistant on help desk. And it was actually my help desk manager at the time that found out that I was like interested in pursuing networking in the IT realm, because I was taking classes at Sac City with the Cisco Network Academy that they had there. Not sure if Sac State offers that, but if you're interested in networking at all, like that's a really great program to just join in, because you'll learn a lot about like the basics of how like data just traverses the network, and it's a really good foundation for IT. Fast forward, I worked for the networking team here full-time for about 3 years. I really thought that was like the job for me. I wanted to be a network engineer for my career. But through that experience, I was able to learn that that is not the job for me. And, like I need to look out for like some new experience. And, I was fortunate to get a job on the security team at DSH. And it's been such a blessing. I've worked help desk at 3 different state departments, but having seen the IT departments at all 3 of them, like I can really tell the difference between like the IT upper management that really go up to bat for the IT tools, the equipment that we have. So we're really fortunate to have like Drew and Dylan to really back us up to have like good products, because there's some departments that are like not that great. So if you're new to IT, like everyone has mentioned, starting off as a student assistant on help desk is the way to go. It's a great way in 2 ways. You get IT experience from like a tier 1 level, but you also get to meet other people that are also studying in your field. And some people will stay with the public sector, and some people will branch out to the private sector, and it's good to have those type of connections. Before I was at state hospitals, I was in the private sector, and I had left helped us in the public sector. And even though I didn't stay there and I went back to the public sector, I was able to get a job for my friend that was working with me on help desk in the public sector. And now he's still working at that same job as a software manager now. So good for him, good for me. Like I'm really fortunate and blessed. So as in terms of tips for applying to state jobs, I highly recommend that you guys pay attention to your statement of work when applying for jobs. It's amazing to see like how many people don't fill out their statement of works when applying for state jobs. They kind of just like robotically fill out their applications and send them out. But it's really important you do your statement of works. If you don't have IT experience, look for student assistant jobs. And if you don't have a background in IT, like don't be shy, like whatever age you're at. You know, my brother is like early 30s and I'm still like mentoring him and like guiding him to get into IT. And he's doing a IT help desk job as a student assistant at Secretary of State. And, you know, it's through those avenues that you make those connections. And that's literally like the easiest way to get a job is through who you know and people knowing your work ethic. And yeah, for the most part, as of now, like I'm still new to my position. I do firewall administration and I pretty much just troubleshoot and refine security tools that we currently have. Still new to me. I'm still learning. If you're in IT, like that's expected. You know, it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on in IT. So you'll always be a student in IT. And if you're always eager to learn and be willing to educate yourself, like this is a field for you. And if you if you pay attention to Slick Deals at all, Pluralsight is a training like a training provider like CBT Nuggets. Like they have like classes. If you haven't already, for the month of April, they're having like a free month membership. So it's a good resource if you're like studying for exams or you just want to learn. Like I would sign up for Pluralsight this month. And to close with, so this will apply to both students and non-students. So no matter what path you end up taking, remember that your job does not define you. Your job is not your life. It's your experiences that mold you into who you are. And I'm personally happy with the way that state service has molded me. So, thanks for listening.
That's awesome. I think we have Travis and Nadir. Are we still good on time? I'm just checking the clock here.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're still fine. Yes.
Great. We'll pass it on to you, Travis.
Thanks. I'm Travis. I'm actually an ITS 2 now, not an ITS 1 any longer. Yeah. And I was actually recently appointed to be like kind of the leader within enterprise application services within DSH to move us towards a more agile application development strategy. And so what I've been working on recently is kind of just like sitting with like small groups of developers within EAS and like walking them through some of the more modern technology stacks. We have a lot of people that have been in state service for quite a long time. I've actually been working for DSH for probably, well, at least 10 years, but maybe 11 or 12. I can't remember the exact year I started. And a lot of us like get comfortable using a particular technology stack and kind of just stick with that. Don't really experiment outside of that because it gets the job done and we can do it fast. But I was fortunate enough to get put into a lot of training situations throughout the time that I've been at DSH, where I've learned a lot of different things. We're a Microsoft shop primarily, so a lot of .NET, a lot of SQL Server, but some of the stuff that I've gotten to work on recently are some low-code environments and also Node.js and React. But most of the stuff that I've been sitting in with the other developers is primarily the newer versions of the web application framework. So we've been working with ASP.NET Core and the new .NET 5 framework that recently came out, and I've just been going over like modern development strategies with them. We're following the Scrum framework, and so not everyone we traditionally use waterfall for our project management, and it's only within the last few years that certain development teams have been moving over to Scrum. So part of the process has also been introducing the team members to Scrum and stand-up meetings and can't remember. Basically, instead of getting work assigned to you, we plan out a sprint and plan out the amount of work and commit to the tasks that are going to be there. But the tasks aren't necessarily assigned to a particular person at the beginning of the sprint. It's up to the members of that team to basically assign themselves to tasks that they see are available and that they know that they can tackle. And that's also been kind of new, because traditionally we've been just assigned, you're going to work on this, you're going to work on that. So that's been a lot of fun. As for where I started out, I actually, for the talks of moving around DSH, I actually got hired at Atascadero initially. I came out from Cal Poly, and I was working there for, I want to say 3 or 4 years before my girlfriend got a job up in Rockland. So I moved up to Sacramento and got transferred to EAS there from the help desk. Well, I was like kind of help desk. I was like a hybrid programmer / help desk. So I did like the tier 3 tech support stuff. Basically, I worked with the business a lot face to face in order to help them solve problems, but it also typically involved making modifications to existing applications, or sometimes developing new applications in order to support a new business process that was in development for that particular hospital. And actually, I don't think anyone mentioned it, but I think it was about 7 years ago that all of the hospitals got merged into kind of like a singular entity. But like prior to that, they were actually, while they were all part of the Department of Mental Health, they were autonomous. And in many ways, the hospitals still are, but the IT department for each of the hospitals got consolidated. And we've been in the process of consolidating the infrastructure and like the resource management, and the IT staff that work at each hospital now regularly works with the staff from the other hospitals and also the Sacramento location as well. And actually, it was after that merge that I transferred up to Sacramento. It was a good opportunity for me. And I got hired on as an associate, and I've just moved up the ranks all the way to ITS too. I don't really know if I've got anything else to add.
Well, it sounds like you guys, all of our subject matter experts, have a wealth of knowledge, had some great tips to offer. And we really appreciate you guys sharing your stories. So I thank you again for your time. I know we're closing we just have a couple more minutes. So again, Nadir is going to share my PowerPoint presentation. I have some of the career resources for you on this slide, and then my contact information. Please, the theme of this presentation is all about networking. So I encourage you and invite you all to, email me, call me. I know Jacqueline mentioned statement of work, statement of qualifications when you are applying for certain positions, and I'm happy to help guide you through that process and kind of handhold you through the state application process. And again, I thank you for the opportunity. I thank my SMEs within DSH. They help us out every day. I'm able to work from home. I have all of my equipment here, and we're ready to serve our patient population and the state of California. So thank you everyone for your time today.
Hey, Crystal, before we go.
Yes.
Are we gonna lose the Zoom, or can we keep it open for a couple of questions? I want to just give anybody an opportunity to ask anything if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, Nadir.
We can keep it open.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, yes. Definitely. So yeah, Crystal, do you want to add anything else?
No, just hit our team with the questions. You got the subject matter experts here. Pick their brains and go for it. Thank you.
Sure, and I encourage everyone to just take a screenshot if you don't want to wait for the follow-up email. Just take a screenshot on your screen right now with the contact information. So you have that, leave that for maybe 20 more seconds. Yeah, and so Amber, I guess, yeah. So we're right on time, and if it's okay with everybody, we can stay on, like Dylan mentioned, completely okay with me. And if you have to drop away now, that's fine. But I think since we have the flexibility, let's keep it on so we can go into some Q&A. And I'm going to go share my screen now really quickly. So to look at some final messages here, let me try that. Oops, stop share. Okay. All right. I hope so. Is everybody seeing the last slide here? Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah,
okay.
We see Crystal's slide. There we go.
Okay, great, perfect. Yeah, so we're going to dive now into Q&A, and I also wanted to leave some messages up here as well. One of the big one I want to make a quick call out is just remember to fill out the attendee survey, and I've put that link in chat so that we know how we can do better, essentially, and just some reminder information. But I wanted to say we got some really great pearls of wisdom here. Like I said, I'm kind of mid-career right now, and everything that the group mentioned, I mean, I just felt like you folks were talking to me, and I'm sure these were great tips for graduating students. But I'll tell you, it's so easy to kind of take it lightly because you're in school and you have maybe different companies come in and kind of talk to you about this information. But as you sort of progress in your career, you kind of miss all that. You miss that mentorship and guidance and advice. And so everything that you were sharing was amazing. It definitely, I mean, it's weighed its worth in gold, pretty much, all the advice that was coming from all of you. And that was really great. So let me quickly open this up for question and answers. Feel free to drop them in chat, or if you have a burning question, feel free to. I think you should be able to unmute yourself and ask the question as well, and maybe even raise your hand, and we can have you talk.
How did your employers ever present incentives for furthering your education afterwards? Like let's say going masters, PE, or anything?
I've had departments that I've worked at offer to send you to training for things like a PMP or certifications. I haven't had one actually say they would pay for a master's degree. Dylan might want to take advantage of that and get those last 2 classes knocked out. But
yeah, it's a little bit more difficult in the state to get that kind of thing. What you're more likely to do is there are things like we have the IT Leadership Academy, and we have the Information Security Leadership Academy, and the ISLA actually does give you the opportunity to get your CISSP. So if you're into security, that's a certification, not a degree per se. But training is always available, and we've got Nellie on here. She's one of our training. I don't know what your actual title is, but she runs the training department. So she could definitely tell you we have a ton of different training to get you more advanced in all kinds of different things. Even in just like public speaking or writing, or like Jackie was saying earlier about paying attention to your statement of qualifications. As a hiring, it is so important to do that. When you're answering the questions right, if you don't, we're going to toss your application right out the door. That's usually the first thing that we look at when we're screening. So, but that kind of training is available. If you're looking for higher education, then that's going to be more of a private sector type thing.
No, that is true, Dylan. This is Nellie Nunez. I run the recruitment organization and also the org development unit. And there's different programs. There's upward mobility programs that you have to qualify for within the state. There's career pathways, that you can coordinate with your management, for example, individual development plans, where you can take some of those additional trainings. As Dylan mentioned, there's a lot of certification programs. For example, Crystal recently, attended a project management course. And so part of that's going to be reimbursed to her. So it depends on the type of work that you're doing. And if it relates to job required, job related, then there are some things that are covered under your bargaining unit contract that helps employees, state government employees. So there's some opportunities, but definitely in regards to like higher education, your master's, your bachelor's, those are a little bit more challenging. You would have to go through a approval process. There would have to be funding. It would have to be approved by your bargaining unit. It all depends on the type of classification you have with state government.
All right, I see Nazmul Islam, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So my question is for apply for the, currently I am in Sacramento State University student, and this is my last semester, and I'm starting apply for different position, private and also government. And currently I saw there is a statement of qualification is asking for a lot of division. So how should I answer the question, and what should I put on the answer?
What was it asking for?
So no, I was asking regarding the statement of qualification question. They're asking a lot of questions regarding, like, I work for service tax currently, and some kind of service tax question. How should I answer? Like, what's the main point I should write it in the statement of qualification?
Well, it's hard to say without actually seeing the SOQ that is part of the job announcement. But I'll say that when I look at a job, when I've applied for a job in the past, it has that, or when people apply for jobs, for like senior level jobs for me, and we have that. What I want them to do is I want them to look at the full question of the SOQ. I want them to relate it to like what's in the job description too, like the duty statement. And be honest. I mean, don't make something up clearly, but be able to like clearly articulate like what in your experience, your education, your work experience relates to that question, and then have an articulate answer to it, right? I mean, Nellie, is there? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other suggestion as well, that's a good one too, Andrew. But the really key important thing is when you look at that job advertisement, if you read really carefully, I highly encourage you to read step by step, even print out the job description. The reason being is on there, it's going to tell you what they're looking for in the statement of qualifications. Some of them are tricky. They will say, we want size font 12, Arial. We want 3 pages, no more than 3 pages. We want you to put the questions in the order it's in. So a lot of the times, because the end user, they want to be able to follow the responses in a manner that's organized. And if you read the directions, that's a big key, because part of what we're looking for too is management. I'm a manager as well, is I want to see if you're following directions. Are you listening to what the assignment is per se in the job description? Because if it has 6 questions, desirable qualifications, for example, and it tells you in the statement of qualifications, we would want you, for example, to put it in the order of the questions. That's a key thing, because if you don't, it will even tell you in the job description that you'll be disqualified if you don't follow those directions. So I advise you as you're applying for jobs, when you look at that job description, print it, read it a couple times, print the duty statement. It's in the link embedded in the advertisement, and keep that and document some notations on that. So when you prepare your statement of qualifications, some of them even have videos at the bottom of the job announcement that will give you a sample of what to put or how to focus on certain SOQs. That's an advice that I give folks.
Good, thank you, Ali. So another question is, my major is MIS, Management Information System. So currently, I don't have any actually programming background, very little actually. So should I apply those application where it says the software or developing the programmer, those kind of indicate on the job description? Should I apply those position?
You need to apply for everything and all the experience you have, whether you were paid for it, whether you were volunteered, anything that you've done to help build that minimum qualifications requirement, because each of them are a little bit different. In the link, I did put the series, information technology series, with all the minimum qualifications for all of them. I would encourage all of you to look at that, because some of them, the entry level is 6 months of general information technology experience, technical or support tasks for computer systems or services in any of the 6 domains of emerging information technology fields, or 15-unit semesters. So you got to read that very carefully, but entry-level jobs don't require as much as other in the series as you get higher up, but definitely put down all your experience, whether you got paid or not. If you did volunteer work at your church, just list as much as you have performed. And
as a hiring manager, I want to touch on a couple things that kind of, talking about your SOQ question and then about this as well, is that the statement of qualifications, like I said, is something that we're going to use to really pre-screen. But the statement of qualification and generally the scoring of your application, you're gonna get an interview if you're one of the top applicants, okay? And we're not just flipping through applications and saying, we like this one, we don't like it. There's a very specific process that we go through. So we actually score them. And we're looking for different keywords that are directly related to the job. So if you're looking through and the duty statement says that you're going to do these 20 things, and you don't list any experience for any of those 20 things, you're not going to score very well. If we've put a statement of qualifications that asks for like 4 or 6 different questions specifically, and you throw a generic statement of qualifications that used for another job or is just a rewording of your resume, that's not going to fly either, because it's not going to get you those points and get you that interview. So you really want to make sure that you're paying attention to what the job announcement says and catering your response to that to specifically that announcement. And then, related to whether or not your experience is sufficient, all you can do is just put down what you have, what you've done, and word it in a way that kind of aligns it with what the job announcement says and what the statement of qualification says, if there is one of those as well. If you're aligning it right, then that's going to help us with the scoring as well, because we'll be able to pick out those keywords. We oftentimes get a stack of 60 resumes or 60 applications or more. And we have to go through them, and we don't have that long to go through them. So we're generally looking for specific keywords. We're looking for some sentences that are well structured, well written. So as you're doing that, also have another set of eyes on it. Have somebody else read through it and say, does this make sense to you? It's nothing. It bothers me to no end when I get something that has like no capitalization, no punctuation in it. That's not somebody I'm going to hire to do policy writing, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't show me that somebody has good analysis skills, that somebody has that care to do a good job when they do come online or come on as an employee, right? So you want to make sure that your application is really putting your best foot forward, but don't be afraid to put out that experience that you do have, even if it is through something else. I mean, I put experience when I started out that I was doing with Boy Scouts. I put, you know, things when I was a general manager at Del Taco about, or not a general manager, but a cruise chief at Del Taco, and you know, keeping track of people's time and making sure that we were following FMLA rules and keeping people's breaks in line, you know, had nothing to do with my job. And yet, but by properly wording things, I mean, it did have something to do with my job. I shouldn't say that, but by properly wording things, you can emphasize the things that are important to that job. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for advice.
Excellent, excellent advice there. Is there any other question from the group here?
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I think I might have one question, but this is regarding about an alumni and handshake. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So after 2 years have passed for an alumni and their SACLink account expires and they're unable to use Handshake, is there any way for them to access Handshake again, or should they rely on other websites like LinkedIn?
I can take this question. So you'll have access to Handshake as long as we have Handshake. So yes, you know, the 2-year rule, because you're using the single sign-on process, you can sign in through single sign-on. But after that, what you want to do is you want to change your email address to like perhaps your personal email address. And therefore you can log in with, instead of single sign-on, you'll log in with your username and whatever password you set. But yes, the answer to your question is you can still have access to Handshake.
I see. But how do I do that once the sign in has expired?
So so it won't quote unquote expire. It's just that when you're logging in through single sign-on, you'll have access to your SAC link for, you know, let's say 2 years. And then after that, you can't log in through single sign-on anymore. So what you can do right now, you can go ahead and I mean, I can take a look at your account. Why don't we take a look at your account? I'll go ahead and put my email address in here so that you can just shoot me your information. I can take a look at your account for you, okay?
Okay, thank
Over
you.
Handshake.
Yeah, and let me also put a plug in for another tool we have called Big Interview. And I recently got a chance to visit it again as an alumni. And I think these are some great resources because these allow you to actually practice interview. And it's good to have these resources as a student on campus, but also great to have them as an alumni. They also have it also has an ability to build your own resume, and it formats it and creates a great template. So all that says is that we just have some amazing resources, and like the information is in the chat. Reach out to the Career Center, and you can get going with that. And also there will be all the information in the resources that is follow up as well. All right. Okay. Is there any? Yeah, I see one more. Maybe that's the last question we'll take for now before we wrap up. Yeah. So go ahead, Al-Rakabi. Do you have a question you want to ask?
Yes, I do. I think this is for some of the managerial people who are on this Zoom call. How, like, supposing that someone enters as like a student assistant or like some of the lower roles in some of these jobs, how accessible are the managerial people in like other departments to such employees? Like, are they easily accessible? Maybe like to like talk to about other departments, or like is it difficult?
Yeah, your manager should be easily accessible, right? Like I try to be accessible, not only to like, I have 5 direct reports, but not only to them, but like Jackie or Travis or something, they can Now during COVID, it's definitely a little bit different, right? But when we were all in the office, somebody could walk into my office at any time and ask questions. And honestly, people could come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for, I'm not promoting fast enough here. I'm looking to go to, whatever, Department X. And I'd say, God, that's a great department. Like, I know the CIO there, let me help you. Or they might say Department Y, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I'd do that one if I were you. But your manager should be, like, I encourage, like Dylan has a daily stand up with his team. So we have like a communications plan that includes like, suggested meeting time frames and, team meetings once a week, group meetings like once a month, like that kind of stuff. And then one-on-ones with people I try and do mine every week, and I'm usually pretty good about them. I mean, Dylan and I have a standing meeting every week where he can come to me with problems. When I was a CTO, I had one with my former CIO, and sometimes there was 1 hour straight of technical, like we're working on, and sometimes it was, hey, we talk about personal stuff, right? My dog died. She'd say, take a week off, Drew. If you have a good manager, you're going to have some availability.
Awesome, great feedback straight coming from a manager. That's really nice. So at this time, I want to give the opportunity to any other board members or staff who, if you want to add something or mention something, please feel free to do that. We also have Alvin here, who's the president as well. Yeah.
So there's so much information during this meeting. I'm trying to think of stuff to say, but I just get dumbfounded while talking. So I'm a recent graduate from Sac State, and I'm the ECS Alumni Chapter President. And I work as an ITA at the Fair Political Practices Commission. And one thing that I have is my team is fairly small. It's about like under 10 people working for the commission. And I see that my abilities are really spread out for what I do. I would say my role is a systems administrator, but I do various things from like website management, firewall, intrusion detection, SIMs, and like video editing and like managing meetings and stuff. But the one thing I have an issue with is I'm getting very interested in more cybersecurity type of stuff, working with SIMs and intrusion detection. I'm trying to think how during my job, while I'm doing all this and also trying to juggle life, how do I increase myself in performance and education? I was thinking of, because I like system administration things, of maybe pursuing like a master's in MIS, or if there's other things I can do to promote myself further through my career path. And that's something that I've just had on my mind recently, because as I'm working and going through the day, I'm finding myself liking this type of work more, but I'm trying to figure out how to push myself further into it without having more of a mentor or peer in vicinity of me that has those abilities to teach me.
So I would say two things for that. One is, when I was trying to learn, I would just take classes, and you could take them online now, but I would take community college classes like, hey, I want to learn X, and I would take a class around that. And then two, is your CIO named Larry Crabtree?
Yes, he is.
So Larry taught me how to code. I call him the professor. So Larry's a graduate from Sac State in the 70s. So tell Larry you and I talked when you see him tomorrow. Larry is an amazingly good mentor. Like, Larry is the one that when I quit working for the state, he and I worked together as consultants together. Literally, I have another guy that works for me still that calls him professor. So talk to him and have that conversation. Like, how often do you interact with him?
Every day, because we're in a Zoom call 8 hours a day.
Okay, so just talk to him. Say, hey, I talked to Andrew Hinkle last night. He said I should talk to you and call you professor. But take a class. Like, if you're like, hey, I want to be a whatever, I want to learn Ruby on Rails, I want to be an Azure cloud architect, you'll be able to find. I would consume as much free stuff as I can. I would do it after hours. And I'd probably like, we were doing programs internally where we were carving out time for people to do like, you know, spend an hour or an hour, like a day a month working on something that you geek out on, right? I mean, hopefully it's not like cleaning your desk or something. I mean, hopefully it's an IT project. And we got some interesting stuff for that. We got some interesting, like, people did some cool stuff with it. You know, I would say just roll up your sleeves and tell Larry I said hi.
Okay, I'll do that.
Since you talked specifically about security, I want to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned. So you actually threw out a couple of the keywords that we would be looking for. You're talking about SIM, you're talking about maybe vulnerability assessment or something like that. These are, if those are your interests, then I will say there are a lot of free resources out there that even if you don't want to take, you know, a structured long, you know, you've got a full semester class just on vulnerability assessment or just on, you know, scanning or on SIM products or something like that. You can definitely find a lot of resources out there. You can go on the Splunk website, download a free version of Splunk and go through their free tutorials on how to get proficient in using Splunk for analysis. That's something that's crucial in our job. When we're doing investigations, we're using a ton of Splunk. So, you know, that's one thing. Other things like just using Nessus, using, you know, other free tools that are out there where you can download a free version. I mean, it's the YouTube generation. My son is on YouTube all the time, right? And I mean, even I fixed my refrigerator because there was somebody that had posted a video on how to fix exactly what my problem is on my refrigerator. It's all there on YouTube. So even if you just want to like dabble in something, go on there, find some videos. You can search for, if you search just online for like specific types of security tools that are, you'll find things that are like Gartner Magic Quadrant. Gartner Magic Quadrant, if you see things that are in the top right, get to know what those products are actually about. Just read some of the brochures on those products. And if they have information that you can look at to kind of get familiar with it, then at least say, I'm familiar with these products. Even if you've never worked with them, get familiarity with it so that when you're putting down on your application, you can put in a statement of qualifications. I have interest in this. I've done research in this on my own on this topic. And that could very well be enough to get you in to an entry-level role, like an associate role. I've hired associates that came straight out of help desk, had no security experience at all. And mine is the information security unit. So just because you don't have specific tool experience doesn't mean you can't come and work in that role, because there's a lot of on-the-job training available. And I don't expect you to know every single tool that's out there coming into my unit. I expect that we're going to get you trained until you're proficient in using it the way we use it, because we may be using it entirely different than another department's using it as well. So take advantage of those resources.
Okay, that's good enough. That's one issue I have is I've been dabbling within these resources. So say like Splunk, I've already set up like log forwarders and like I set up like an elk stack and I look at things like that. But I feel I get stuck at a point where I play with it, but I am not confident in saying like I am familiar with this product. I think that's the issue that I have. I think it's the confidence issue in me where you dabble in these skills, but you don't want to really say that you are familiar with it because you're afraid that if you're pushed forward within that field, you might fail. And I think that's the issue with me is the fear of failure for doing something. And I know there's other students I talk to, they're also afraid of failing and approaching these jobs because they feel like they're not up to par to participate in these jobs. And I tell them to just go for it. But then also for me, I have the same issue where I get afraid of trying to do these things because I feel like I don't have the skill set for it.
Yeah. So if you try, you may succeed. You may fail. If you don't try, you've already failed. So if you don't ever apply, if you don't ever put yourself out there, if you don't ever interview for a position, you're never going to know what it is that you're doing wrong. You're never going to be able to get to that next step. So I would say you really can't be shy about it. Just go for it.
Okay.
And even like I said, even if you've only touched on it just a little bit, nobody that's come to my unit has been able to do everything that I wanted them to be able to do when they came in. I expect that we're going to train them up. I expect that we're going to teach them how to operate within our framework, that they're going to learn the tools that we use. I do not expect somebody to come in and be a pro at any of the tools that we use. Even if it's something you've put on your resume that you've used, I don't expect you to necessarily be a pro and know our method of using it. So don't let that hold you back. You have to put yourself out there. One other thing that I do want to say is I'm glad you have your camera on. That's another thing that I think is really important. And my team knows, we like to have our cameras on. This is much more personal. I feel like I'm talking to you as a person as opposed to, a lot of the image. Now I do like anonymous steak. I personally think that's the coolest cat ever. But, but seeing your face is also important because that, to me, that shows sincerity. That shows that you are engaged, that you're not looking down at your phone or you're not looking at some other screen or watching something on TV while you're on this call. So, that's all part and parcel. I would be just in talking with you here, I would be more inclined to have you come into an interview than have somebody that had maybe a couple more buzzwords listed on the resume, but didn't really demonstrate that they had a desire to move forward.
Thank you. I know it's already past. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say also that some departments will actually, if you ask if they need volunteers to gain experience, I actually hired a great analyst in my unit where he got hired as a volunteer, not hired, I'm sorry. He joined us as a volunteer to gain experience. And since then, he's not been hired. Some of you know him as Zach Stoever in DSH, but he, came from a communications media, electronic media background. He's learned so much and wants to explore now into coding and other things. But most departments, I know we at DSH, I kind of started that trend where we will pick up volunteers or no pay, but you're going to gain experience in doing some of the work and tasks that we need help in and assign with. So that's a good way also to get your foot in the door. There are programs to be able to come in as a volunteer.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, I feel like we can keep going. There is so much more to talk about, but I would say this has been an amazing session. This has been so much more than we have expected. Honestly, we have got some great.
Oh, I think you cut out Nadir.
This has just been some really amazing presentation. I just wanted to quickly summarize everything that we talked about here, and it will be really hard. But some of the things we talked about was start early. If you're a student assistant, take the opportunity to make yourself uncomfortable, go out there. Growth can never be linear. It's good to get holistic experience. We saw our speakers came from many different backgrounds and consultants, student assistant, all over the place. Is a hard speak from experience as well. So if you're looking for further opportunities, you should definitely explore cybersecurity. And I think the best of all, working for the state, you are serving the public, and I think that in itself is a great reason to look at jobs at the state. We went way beyond time, but that was completely okay. And I'll say I've been very thoroughly impressed by all our panelists and such candid conversation from everybody. I think this just shows that we need more of these. We need more such presentations. We need more such honest conversations. So this has just been a great example. So being respectful of everybody's time, I thank all our panelists, everybody here. Thank you so much for sharing your honest feedback. And we look forward to hosting you soon, actually. And we look forward to giving all this positive feedback to the department as well. All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, thanks, guys.
It was nice meeting all of you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Lots of insights.
I'm impressed. They were so enthusiastic. I just
Yes.
couldn't get enough of it. Thank you guys for doing that.